Welcome back, everybody, to Nain Shorts. Once again, no shorts. It is a bit chilly today, and we are shooting from a secret location, not the usual ring that you see behind me. So we had to relocate just for today. But lately, on my mind, I've been really mulling over the idea of what are we trying to get across? What information are we gonna put forward with these shorts? And it's really boiled down to, if you follow the episodes that we've had, it's all about really, where's your mindset when you train? What are the sort of things that you look for? What are the ideas that you cultivate as you train? It isn't what you train that really matters, but how you go about doing it. And when it comes to martial arts and many other sports, having a good partner, someone that you can bounce ideas off of, someone that you can try physical things, you can push each other to the limit, maybe even a sports rival, nothing negative, just somebody that pushes you to that next level. It becomes a very important learning tool. Not that we're calling our training partners tools, and depending on who they are, that's on you, your own personal thoughts on the matter. But but how well do we take the time to choose these partners? Whether they're fellow students, whether they're friends that came with you and like the same things you do, or somebody you met in class that you kind of grew up with and took the hits from everybody else, and you guys just grit your teeth and finally made it to black belt or instructor or wherever you are in your training at this point. But could we make that selection process a little better? I only bring this up because we've been talking about looking at the other person in front of you, and more often than not, the person that plays the attacker is a fellow student. In this case, more specifically, a training partner. And I've heard, unfortunately, too many stories of people quitting things or not coming back after they received an injury because their training partner was a little overzealous. They may have put too much behind it, they may have turned in the wrong place, or they were just way too excited, or they didn't really measure their own strength. Again, going back to the episodes that we had prior to this, it's all about evaluating yourself so then you can be a better instructor, a better student, and in this case, even a better training partner. Do you really understand how much force you can generate? How much strength you actually have? Are you the newer student? Do you have enough respect for the older student or the more advanced student to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to push the limits of this. Even though inside your ego is going, I could take it, I could take it, I could take it, I can give a little more, I can give a little more. And then what happens? You do too much and they retaliate, or you do so much that you hurt somebody. But how do you go about evaluating that? How do you go figuring out what you should or shouldn't do? Are you the cocky new student, or are you the cocky senior student? Are you being way too careful because you understand that you could hurt the new student and they're not getting a good sense of what they should be? They're not getting enough resistance for them to actually learn properly. Are you dismissing the newer student simply because they're not to your level, so you feel like you're not going to get anything out of it? So why are you going to give it enough or better performance in that instance for that student to learn? As a newer student, it's a lot tougher because you just don't know. You're not familiar with that environment. You haven't been there for a while. You may have other things under your belt that hold a lot of importance in your esteem. But when you go to a new class, like we've discussed before, are you capable of letting that go and leaving that at the door and really emptying that cup to the point where you can say, I'm in your hands, I just want to learn something? No, it's just thoughts that have been popping into my head recently in reference to how far do we go with any particular training partner. I'm a hard style, so I'm gonna go hard, but the person in front of me has never done a hard style in their life. So all of a sudden, they're feeling a little upset that they just got hit a little harder than they expected to be hit. Do you even discuss the background that that person has before you even start touching, before you start throwing or rolling or whatever technique that you're playing with at that time? Do you know what they have under their belt? Are they completely new, or are they already ranked in whatever system they're from? Are you familiar with that system? And believe it or not, all these questions, all these things should be brought up, and they're very simple to find out. Ask the person after you learn their name, hey, your name is so and so, do you have any experience in this art? No. Do you have any experience in any art? Yes, I've trained this to this degree, to this level. Oh, okay. Tell me what your threshold is, because we're going to work on a lock, we're going to work on a throw, we're going to work on some striking. Let me know if you can take a little more, or if this is enough. It really is that simple. And yet we still have accidents, and yet we still have moments where people regret having gone as hard or as eagerly into a situation that they were unfamiliar with. And beyond the training, it the way you go about it really bleeds out into everything else. So how do we then enhance that part of our training? And honestly, the only advice I can give you is talk. Find out what this person is. Like we said before, as a student, we want to know what the instructor is capable of. So either people are going to tell us, or we're going to do a research, or we're going to experience it ourselves, and we're like, wow, this person knows their stuff. But you have a gauge as to what they're capable of. As an instructor, you have a new student, you have no idea. Having a conversation with them, just getting to know where their mindset is in reference to their training and what they're wishing to accomplish, could give you a good insight as to how far or how hard or how soft to go with them. What kind of instructions do they need as an individual to really hit the mark? And when you're not in any one of those paradigms, when you're essentially equals, two students in the same class or in the same school, trying to learn off each other, and that communication seems to become even more important, because it's not too difficult to hurt somebody. We had a student, he was with us for a while, but he was incredibly skittish. Every time that we just upped the bar a little bit, he would back away, and it would become very difficult for him to actually pick anything new up or move on from the weapon base to the empty hands. At discontinued, eventually Rick, my instructor, pulled him to the side and had a conversation with him, and asked him, hey man, what's going on? You seem scared. We're not here to hurt you. If we gave you any impression of such, let us quash that right now. He explained that he had been in a different type of martial arts earlier in his life. I think a year or two prior to us meeting him and training with him. And one of the students was trying a leg lock. And either because this student had bad character, or was just having a bad day, or just was way too excited about learning something, he did the leg lock on him and snapped his knee. I'm talking torn ligaments. I think something happened with his bone. I don't remember the details, but he was in recovery for a while. And after he pointed that out, you can even see that he really guarded that knee far more than he had or should, because of the injury that he suffered. Sure, we can call it an accident. Me personally, I don't believe in accidents. I think that that's a cop-out. It's a word that people use to remove responsibility. And maybe that's another point that we can bring up, is saying that it's all about responsibility. Were you being careful enough to find out before you did the technique what that person's threshold was? Were you careful enough not to go beyond the point where something would snap or break? Were you smart enough as a student, as a newer student, to say, hey, that freaking hurts. Sure, it might emasculate you. Sure, you might feel like, okay, I'm not gonna be accepted if I don't put up with it, if I don't go through with it, if I don't bite my lip and say nothing and just try to limp my ass away and pretend like nothing hurts, because I'm sorry, that is the dumbest thing that you can do. And let's face it, a lot of us martial artists, we're stubborn as hell. We get hurt and we try to walk it off like it's nothing, but age will eventually catch up to you, and that nothing is going to become such a big issue, especially because you're so tough. Oh, it's okay, I'm going to recover. No, eventually the recovery period is going to be longer and longer and longer, which means you're not going to be on the mat, you're not going to be in the dojo, you're not going to be in your gi, you're not going to be rolling, you're not going to be punching, throwing, or doing any of the things that we love to do. Because now, instead of it taking a week for you to recover from an injury, or in this case, a repetitive injury, it's going to take a couple months. It might require surgery. You may get into the habit of dismissing things that could become medical issues later on, where you have to end up in the emergency room because your tough ass could take it. And this is all starts from the way that we treat ourselves in the dojo and each other. We have to be mindful of the things that are going to come afterwards, because whether you're doing it for longevity, whether you're doing it to better yourself as a human being, for sports, or for combat, it takes a toll on the body. It always will. So, if just by communicating with one another and saying, hey, let me know what your threshold is, or hey, I'm new to this and I have no idea, can we go slow or take it easy? If that is enough to set a good standard of where you guys are and how to grow together, then maybe we can save ourselves a lot of issues later on. Just a thought. Anyways, thank you very much for joining me again on this Nain Shorts. Hope to see you next week. You guys have a wonderful evening. 3, 2, 1, cut!